Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and coming up in today's newscast, over 1,600 Israelis have now been diagnosed with the coronavirus. The Israeli government is about to institute new drastic measures to stem the spread of the disease, and we'll reveal how you can travel to Israel without leaving the comfort of your couch. Well, it's another Tuesday, although the world certainly feels a lot different. Israeli health officials have just confirmed another 449 cases of coronavirus in the state of Israel since Monday night, bringing that total amount of Israelis with coronavirus now up to 1,656. 31 are now in serious condition, up from 29 last night. And the second Israeli death, a 67-year-old woman, has also now been announced. The woman was reportedly suffering from a serious pre-existing medical condition before passing away from the coronavirus in a Holon hospital today. The Israeli government is set to institute new drastic restrictions to slow the spread of the disease, according to Israeli reports. Those allegedly include completely shutting down public transportation, ordering all shops to close with the exception of supermarkets and pharmacies, and only allowing Israelis who are not going to work to venture outside of their homes for up to 200 meters. The deputy director of the health ministry says that exercise will still be allowed in pairs for up to a kilometer radius and that dog walking can continue, but the details are still being hammered out by the government. Police will, however, be enforcing the rules on an individual level, which likely refers to phone tracking. New measures will also likely include limitations on how much time people are allowed to spend outside and are reportedly going to last for 7 days, but this will all be announced by the Israeli Prime Minister, ideally later today. Now, until now, stores have been able to remain open if they can ensure customers maintain a 2-meter distance from one another and stay relatively empty. But Israel is also reportedly mulling whether or not to put people that are age 65 plus on total lockdown. All of these latest potential restrictions come as Israelis have failed to adhere to new social distancing rules, with many hanging out at beaches and parks as if they're on vacation. While the Israeli Defense Force is now gearing up to assist the police in enforcing a full national lockdown if one is declared, and is dedicating 8 battalions to the cause. That's over 2,000 soldiers. The soldiers would act as a supplementary force to the Israel police, which will have actual legal authority to enforce the lockdown. And right now, 138 Israelis are currently being investigated for violating quarantine rules. Now, despite preparations, the finance ministry is warning that if a total lockdown is applied to Israel, the economy may not be able to rehabilitate afterwards. Well, 3 more drive-through coronavirus testing sites have just opened to the public on Monday in Haifa, Jerusalem, and Beersheba. And the Israeli government is hoping to dramatically increase the number of tests it conducts on a daily basis.
They're called check and travel testing facilities, drive-through coronavirus testing sites that allow Israelis to get the checkups they need from within the safety of their cars. Not anybody can show up, however. So how do they work? Well, to request a test if you're feeling sick, all you need to do is contact Israel's Magen David Adom emergency service, which will forward your application to a doctor for approval. After receiving an approval for a test, you're then given an appointment time and you have to fill out medical forms sent via text message. And after that, you'll receive a QR code on your phone that allows you to come to the drive-through facility with your private vehicle. But don't open the window. Once you arrive, you must present your QR code through a closed window, and from there you'll be able to go to a second tent to get your mouth swabbed by a medic in full protective gear. That process will happen through your now open window, and then you can head home to wait for test results. There are now 4 drive-through testing facilities like this in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, and Beersheba. On Monday, the health ministry announced that it had administered over 3,000 tests, passing that landmark expectation. But the Israeli Prime Minister is hoping to conduct up to 10,000 tests a day in the near future.
Well, as the coronavirus pandemic continues, Israel's unemployment rate has surged to 16.5%, as over 500,000 Israelis have been put out of work in just March alone. And although the job search may feel hopeless, many headhunters and recruiters in high-tech companies are still looking for new talent. So, How do you access these jobs? Well, joining us on Skype is headhunting expert Nimrod Grover with 5 tips to help you find work. All right, Nimrod, so what is your first tip?
Great. So basically, your resume is like a selfie. Try to make it as accustomed to the platform that you're submitting your CV to. If you remember the Dolly Parton challenge, like you have LinkedIn and you have Facebook and you have Twitter, you have all these different type of platforms. Adjust the content of your CV and your expertise to the job at hand.
Right. So the idea is to not just send out the same CV to everyone. Think about where you're applying and change your resume according to that. So what is the second tip?
Great. Well, this time allows you to actually express your special talent in all sorts of platforms and actually gain assets, personal, professional assets. So whether it's your article that sits in the back of your mind and you haven't published it for a really long while, now's the time to write it, or maybe just host a TED Talk and bring up or participate in a major conference in your domain. It doesn't matter what, but be there, be out there, give value to people, and people will appreciate it and give value back to you.
So in other words, create as much content as possible during this time.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. So the third tip, from what I understand, has to do more with self-quarantine, right? What is it?
Well, these times of isolations actually can bring to elevation of the soul, of the spirit, of the intellect. So just take your time to also make yourself better intellectually, spiritually. I mean, not necessarily in terms of of the professional domain, but also you can take it to your personal space. I mean, look back, read fine art, fine literature, excel in other domains that actually give you a more round character, not just a professional, but also someone that can give value in a lot of different situations.
So take advantage of all that spare time that you have. Now, your company, you work for Lightricks. They've developed a successful app that many of us know called Facetune, which allows you to basically make your selfies even more impressive, right? So why is this app more relevant right now during this crisis than in the past, per se?
Right now, people are a lot online, and they need their personal avatar to be published and to be in the best way that it can be. So it's a great time to actually add the glamour, put the special light effects that bring up your personality, the character flavor that you want to emphasize. And it's also really fun. It adds just joy to a lot of people during the day. So from all of these reasons, it's great. And it also helps job search and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always want to have a good picture, right? Something that makes you look professional and the right fit for the job. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Natasha. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You do. Take care. All right. Now, in other news, in spite of strict new regulations regarding the coronavirus, the country's comptroller says that Israel is woefully unprepared for a pandemic outbreak. And now dozens of Israeli medical professionals are calling out for change. ILTV's Aaron Porras has the scoop.
A terrifying report released Monday by the Israeli comptroller alleges that Israel is incapable of properly defending itself against a global pandemic. And while the report is newly published, it had been concluded since before the coronavirus crisis began. Now, the report, completed in November 2019, focuses on several aspects of the healthcare system, including hospitals and clinics, but also preventative medicine, public awareness, and health literacy. And the report says that Israel has a lot of room to grow in every single aspect. It argues that Israel already has the highest hospital occupancy rates among the developed world, with mortality rates from infectious diseases upwards of 73% higher than the second-ranked country. Also, the healthcare system has apparently been under-budgeted and under-resourced for years, resulting in low healthcare literacy. For example, the rise in anti-vaccination sentiments that has led to recent outbreaks like the measles in 2018 and 2019, where several Israeli children died. Now, one thing the comptroller's report refuses to do, however, is name names. So in the meantime, dozens of senior medical professionals have now signed an open letter to target officials within the health ministry. And specifically, the petition calls for the health ministry director general to be a medical professional who presides over a broad team of senior professional clinicians. Currently, the director general position is held by Moshe Bar Simantov, who is the first non-doctor to hold the post.
Well, as international air traffic seems to be coming to a full halt in Israel, is closing its border to the entire world, you may think that there aren't many new people immigrating or making aliyah to the country. But since the beginning of March, 870 Jews from around the world have immigrated to Israel. And last night specifically, 72 Jewish immigrants from Ethiopia arrived at Ben Gurion Airport. Well, joining us now on Skype is the head of the Jewish Agency's Immigration Department, Shai Palber, to discuss how Israel is going to be able to maintain immigration numbers throughout this coronavirus pandemic. So this month, tell us where were the latest new immigrants coming from?
So a lot of the Russians are coming from Russia. We got a big group coming from Argentina, South Africa, and from Europe, from France, the UK.
Interesting.
And as you say, 72 Olim from Ethiopia, a big group.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But were there any that considered canceling their immigration to the state of Israel because of the coronavirus crisis?
So the way we work is that before Olim arriving to Israel, we have a very strict procedure that we have decided together with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Aliyah and Absorption. Before we are coming to Israel, you have to commit that once you arrive to Israel, you will go to quarantine for 14 days, and you have to prove us that you have a place to do so. Mm-hmm. Once you declare that, you arrive at Ben Gurion Airport, you are getting all the documents in a digital way, and then you go into home quarantine. So people are considering their aliyah beforehand, and yes, certain people have decided to postpone their aliyah, but the majority have decided to come to Israel regardless. You can imagine that people have sold their houses, stopped their jobs, and for them there's nothing to do in the original country. Therefore, even to come to do the quarantine, it's okay because they know that once they're going to finish that, they're going to have to start their new life in Israel.
Well, is Israel encouraging people to make aliyah during this time? And how is Israel able to allow this to continue, especially, I mean, not only in terms of health regulations, but I'm sure there are many people who are looking for jobs right now, and we're seeing so many people who are out of work in the state of Israel.
So, for 72 years, aliyah never stopped, and we are proud to say that it doesn't stop now. That's the first thing. Secondly, a lot of the Olim that are coming now, those Olim that have already made certain plans from advance. They already rented houses, they already found jobs. So they are coming, relatively speaking, in ordinary way. You are right that certain Olim are now coming and asking themselves, what should we do? And we are here to assist them. We're here to help them to find jobs, to find accommodations. Olim that cannot go to quarantine, we offer them to go to absorption center in that period of time because they got stuck in the middle. Right. They sold their houses, they stopped their works, and they were expected to start new life in Israel. And we need to help them.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, 72 Jews just immigrated to Israel from Ethiopia last night, like we mentioned before. How is the Jewish Agency bringing them into the country with all of the air traffic being halted? I imagine that it's hard to actually even find flights to bring some of these immigrants into the country.
So other than the moon, I flew Olim all over the earth. We flew Olim from Brazil for Ethiopia, that's from Turkey, the Turkish Airlines, from Australia to South Africa. So as long as there are flights, it's maybe taking you the long way, but eventually we will bring you home.
All right. Well, now apart from providing aliyah services, are you helping Jewish communities in countries where there are many who are sick and dying, like Italy?
So definitely, yes, Italy is one of our major concerns. And in the beginning of the crisis 2 weeks ago, we are offered our assistance to the community, and we are providing them with the finance to be able to purchase a hygiene product like masks, gloves, and liquids. And the second thing, we're helping them to purchase a home learning equipment for the schools and for the pupils to try to maintain a routine way of life. And we're also providing some food assistance to certain communities, mainly in Italy, but we are concerned of others as well, Spain, and depending how the disease will spread out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us with this update. Very, very interesting.
With pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, following an initial delay, the brand new 23rd Knesset has started to dole out rules, but the right-wing bloc under Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be hard at work in attempts to stall. ILTV's Aaron Porras reports.
In accordance with Health Ministry regulations, Knesset members are entering in batches of 6 to cast their votes and form important committees to discuss and write draft laws. But Knesset Speaker and Likud MK Yuli Edelstein has been trying to stall the Knesset's votes, including a vote on his potential replacement, by suspending the Knesset under the pretense of concerns for health. As Speaker of the Knesset, Edelstein manages the affairs of the Knesset and is in charge of preserving its dignity, maintaining order and decorum during its sittings, and ensuring that its rules of procedures are observed. But Edelstein has admitted that by suspending the Knesset, he was actually trying to buy time to form a unity government between the Likud party and the Blue and White party. Well, the High Court has since ruled that the votes must go on, and 6 important Knesset committees have now been formed. The Coronavirus Committee, the Committee to Reduce Crime and Violence in the Arab Sector, the Special Committee to Prepare the Education and Special Education Systems for the next school year, the Labor and Welfare Committee, the Appropriations Committee, and the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. But none of the right-wing or religious MKs have cast a single ballot. Instead, they're choosing to boycott or even filibuster on the plenum floor. And some are even threatening fourth elections pending these votes.
מעולם כנסת ישראל לא פעלה באופן חד צדדי ולא אפשרה הקמת ועדות כנסת שלא בתיאום ושלא מתוך הבנה והסכמות. החלטת בג"ץ מהיום היא בעצם השתלטות על הכנסת, דבר שמנוגד לכל דמוקרטיה.
But contrary to the culture minister's statement, the High Court has the right to influence the Knesset's activities and even cancel laws that have been passed if they're ruled unconstitutional. And center and left-wing officials argue that establishing Knesset committees is essential for government oversight, especially during the coronavirus outbreak.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has actually just made yet another public request for a meeting with his rival Benny Ganz. He took to social media to insist that the two can still come together and form a unity government within the next couple of hours. Ganz has yet to respond. And now joining us, of course, with more on the political clashes in the Knesset right now, we have political strategist and director of English operations with the Yamina Party, Jeremy Saltan. So why would the right boycott these committee votes rather than try to join them and influence change?
What's important right now is to send a message to Benny Gantz that what he's doing is not going to end up having the desired result that he's looking for. We know that Benny Gantz has the mandate in order to be able to form a government. However, the 61 recommendations which he received in the president's residence are actually just doing so in order to block Netanyahu from forming a government. They have no interest in going ahead and backing the same government between Yisrael Beitenu and the joint list with Benny Gantz at the head. So instead, what Benny Gantz is trying to do is to go ahead and use his 61 MKs in order to get rid of the speaker, be able to take over all of the Knesset committees, and then use that power to prevent Netanyahu from getting the second mandate by passing new legislation after the election in order to prevent it from going over to Netanyahu. By going ahead and not showing up to these committees, the message that we're sending to Benny Gantz is that the candidate that the right-wing bloc has for prime minister is going to remain Benjamin Netanyahu. His attempt to try to go ahead and try to send us a message that we should break off or that we should go ahead and find someone else within the Likud to go ahead and replace Netanyahu is not going to work.
Why is the right so afraid of Edelstein being replaced? What power does he have over the Knesset?
So what the speaker has power over is setting the agenda.
Right.
Now, there are pieces of legislation which already on the first day of the new Knesset last week, back on Monday, that Blue and White went ahead and put on the Knesset floor. These are bills that would prevent, for instance, any person who is under current criminal proceedings from being able to form a government. That is quite obviously a personal bill that is being directed at Netanyahu to prevent him from having the ability to form a government. By going ahead and replacing Edelstein, they'll be able to put in their own speaker, which will allow the various bills that they want, put them on the table, and then to change the law in their behalf.
But Edelstein is supposed to be bipartisan, isn't he? And also, I mean, I guess the other question I have is you know, the whole Knesset ultimately has the right to vote on passing laws, so the right would still be part of that.
So for sure, each Knesset member has the right to go ahead and to submit pieces of legislation. What the job is of the speaker is to go ahead and to set that agenda. What the speaker is trying to do, what Edelstein here is trying to do, is say that until we have the formation of a new government We are in a very fragile time. This is a time where, of course, we're dealing with the coronavirus beyond the fact that we still have a caretaker government that's been going on since December of 2018. We're in March 2020. This has been going on for over a year regardless of the coronavirus. This is not the time to be going ahead and passing new legislation when we don't even have a government. Ganz has 61 MKs. All he needs to do is go ahead and bring them and try to form a government. The fact is he doesn't have that, so instead he's going ahead and doing this.
All right, Jeremy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, if you're stuck in coronavirus isolation and you're responsibly practicing social distancing as you should, you might feel like you're doing a lot of mindless internet scrolling like Netflix. Well, ILTV's Nittany Manson joins us with how you can get your fix of Israeli culture without actually having to leave the comfort of your couch. And I see you're joined by your recently adopted friend in the coronavirus crisis. He can't be alone yet.
Our little buddy, yeah, he can't be alone. So he's here joining us to find out about all these great things you can do from your couch in Israel.
Of course.
So some of these amazing things are virtual tours.
Right.
You can take virtual tours of museums, of historical sites, of Israel in general. So a few of them that I just wanted to highlight. Google Arts and Culture has actually teamed up with over 500 different museums and exhibits that you can go online and just take these virtual tours, and they're really amazing. You can go on and see art pieces, the exhibits themselves. You can walk through different museums, and one of the museums is the Israel Museum in Jerusalem.
Right.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You can go in and you actually feel like you're there. You're going through these different tours, and it's great. And this is also the museum that has the Dead Sea Scrolls. For those of you who don't know, it's one of the biggest museums in Israel. There's also the Tower of David in Jerusalem, which is really a great sight to see if you're here. But if you can't, take
that's just one of the top heritage sites.
Exactly,
in
it is. And they were actually set to launch an immersive VR exhibit on anyways. And then once Corona hit, they were like, all right, we'll just put it online, which is amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you can go on and see all of these different things that they have there, and it's a sight to see for sure. And then in Tel Aviv, the Tel Aviv Art Museum actually has a ton of their exhibits online as well, where you can take virtual tours.
Wow.
Same thing, you
I
really
didn't
feel
even
like
know
you're
that
there.
this was possible, and I wish that I had known this anyhow. I mean, you don't just need it for the coronavirus crisis because...
Yeah, I mean, it's people who have always wanted to come to Israel maybe and just can't, maybe the funds or maybe timing or something like that. Maybe they have too many kids running around.
Yeah, you never know what it is.
But
well,
it's
I mean,
great,
that's really exciting. So I guess for those of you who are interested in traveling to Israel without actually leaving home, there is a way. Nittany has just shown it to us, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, now we need something that is going to keep us busy and smiling as regulations become stricter in Israel surrounding the coronavirus pandemic, and we find ourselves confined to our homes. Well, let's just say that Israelis are becoming more creative. Check this out.
If you can't go out and dance, why not do that from the comfort of your balcony? A group of young musicians in Israel have taken to a rooftop in Tel Aviv to give a live performance for those who are stuck at home in self-quarantine.
We just wanted to make people a bit happier with this hard situation, and our heart goes out to the whole world with this really hard new situation that we're in, but it's important to keep a bit of happiness, especially with music, and stay at home, enjoy the music outdoors. And that's what we were here for.
Saxophonist Yarden Klayman is just one of the many musicians who have partnered with the Tel Aviv municipality and local police to help provide some relief to Israelis who are running out of ways to keep occupied at home as the coronavirus crisis persists.
We're in for keeping the how do you say that, like all the rules in order to keep the corona away from as many people as possible. So we did not want people to hang out here in around, only in the balconies and at their homes. That was the point. So we're happy that the police came and helped us keep that clear.
Amazing. All right, well, let's take a look at the weather forecast for those of you who are out on your balconies. We're looking at partly cloudy skies in Tel Aviv with a high of 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius. And tomorrow the weather is expected to remain the same with a slight dip in temperatures to 67 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius. Wednesday should also see a 10% chance of rain. And now before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel on tubing. Oh, wow. This is clearly what happens when you are bored at home in quarantine. Just be careful with your pets. I don't even know what she's doing. I can't even tell you guys what she's doing. Oh, she's DJing. Got it. All right, that's it. That's enough. That was enjoyable. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.63 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Natasha Kirchak, and thanks for watching.